This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
That you are hearing these words suggests something to me about both of us. We have an affection for trains and for railroading that transcends childhood infatuations. A lot of kids, my grandson for instance, develop a fascination for trains at about age 3. I was one of those kids too. The first 7 years of my life were spent in a railroad town in southern Kansas, Arkansas City, where trains were an element of just about everyone's life. In a year or two, this fascination usually fades away as other interests intrude into our young lives. And that describes me as well, because my family relocated 350 miles away, and usually that's about it. We go on to other stuff. Does this sound familiar? But then something happened to me. Now I'm age 10, and I'm riding my bike along the sidewalk of Gilmer Street in Sulphur Springs, Texas. I round a turn, and in front of me is a big, black diesel locomotive crossing Gilmer. Its engineer is leaning out the locomotive's window, watching the signals of a brakeman as a coupling is made with freight cars. I stop and watch. Horns honk, bells ring. Back and forth the train moves as the freight cars are sorted. Honestly, it awakened all those memories of my earlier days in Ark City. The big Lionel train set in our basement, visits to the depot to see Santa Fe's Texas chief, being hoisted onto locomotives by my dad, and imagining what it would be like to not get off, but instead to leave town. This chance encounter on a summer day in 1954 became a life-changing event. You can just about draw a straight line from that moment to the book you're hearing today. Out of the attic came those Lionel trains to occupy every usable inch of my bedroom until I graduated from high school. I began to meet the local freights of the Kansas City Southern and Cotton Belt Railways. Once the crews knew me, I was invited to ride the cabooses, and then the locomotives. By age 12, I collected employee timetables, studied books of rules, and listened on the dispatcher phones as train orders were dictated to station agents. I began to stoke a lifelong interest in the intricacies of how railroads are actually operated. I drove my family crazy, and it never stopped. As a sophomore in high school, I'd declare a mental health day every 6 weeks and skip school, driving around East Texas and watching trains. This lasted until I invited my classmate Seba to join me, and we were discovered. Later, at the University of Kansas, I spent weekends exploring the railroad geography of nearby Kansas City and cultivating the friendships of the men working the region's junction towers. Upon graduation, I took aim at Chicago as a place to live, one obvious reason being that Chicago is the white-hot epicenter of America's railroad world. In this journey, which continues to this day in my 76th year, I've had a constant companion. The pages of Trains magazine. It was my school of railroading, my secular Bible, my key to opening the secrets of what really goes on in this fascinating business. 2 men writing for trains sparked my admiration. One was Wallace W. Abbey, a fellow KU journalism graduate of a generation earlier. Wally was a staff writer, traveling the country to write feature stories about whatever piqued his curiosity. In August 1954, 18 pages on the Santa Fe Railway. The following February, 24 pages of everything you'd ever want to know about the Western Maryland. Wally wrote about riding Santa Fe's Chief and the Katie's St. Louis to Texas fast freight, named the Katy Comet. From my perspective, work for Wally was really having fun.